Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ. That is Farm Bureau Health Plans. He says, how deeply entrenched is Milton at QB1 if QB2 is outperforming him at practice? And I mean,
loaded
yeah,
question that I think Tennessee is doing the right thing by not letting that really become a thing too much. But at the same time, there's a lot of praise for Nico out there, but the praise for Joe Milton's pretty equal. But I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. We really don't know until they hit the field. It's impossible to say. But it does have some feeling of like the Clemson situation in when Trevor Lawrence was a true freshman and Kelly Bryant was the starter. They didn't make the change. The offense, they were winning games, but it wasn't really, it wasn't always pretty. The offense wasn't playing at the same level that it did when Deshaun Watson was there. Eventually, they make the change to the true freshman. It's history from there. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen at all, but it is kind of a similar situation where maybe Kelly Bryant will have some of this, Joe Milton could in his past has had some of the same issues that Kelly Bryant had with, accuracy, field vision, things like that. It's not fair to Joe Milton to say that those issues will linger. I'm not assuming either way. We're just going to kind of see how it goes. But with Nico, I mean, you have this guy that the staff really trusts. I mean, they went out of their way to kind of say, like, if we have to call upon him, we trust him to run the offense. They're not going to use this as an excuse, as to why they're not winning games or something like that. Like, they believe in this kid. So, I think Joe Milton's safe. I think he would really have to struggle. I mean, if they go lose to Florida and then struggle against South Carolina to move the ball, maybe you get into October and it's like, okay, what are we doing here? We got to turn this around now and salvage this season. I would think that would be the earliest that you would see anything like that happen, and really only if the offense is drastically worse than it was last season.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to this, and it is complicated. This staff really believes in Joe Milton. Joe Milton believes in himself. I think he has improved a lot, and I think all those dudes believe in the pieces around them also. Like Joe Milton, he has a great connection with Squirrel White, and it seems like with Dante Thornton and with Ramel Keaton and all that. And so there's no signs that he's going to go out there and blow it. Also, expectations for this season relative to Tennessee over the last 15 years, expectations are sky high. Josh Heupel knows that. Josh Heupel is, according to all reports, incredibly competitive and in no way will put up with any kind of, frankly, losing. I mean, the man just has never done it in his career, frankly. And so I think if things turn south, I don't want to say it'll be a quick trigger, but I don't think it's going to be super long if it's pretty obvious, like a Kelly Bryant situation. I mean, with that one, you have the best young guy in America behind this kid. We at least got to give him a chance.
And I'll say to Dabo's credit, he gave Kelly Bryant every chance to hold on to that job. And I think Josh Heupel will be the same with Joe Milton. I feel like he wants to reward him for staying here behind Hendon Hooker. I think he believes in him. I'm not saying that that's the only reason why he's going to be the starter. I don't think that at all. But I do think he will get a little bit of rope if he has a tough game against Virginia. Okay, let's clean it up against Austin Peay. Probably not going to be able to glean a whole bunch from that game because of the competition. Then you go into Florida and it's like, okay, now you got 2 games under your belt. You've never got more than 2 starts in a row at Tennessee. Let's see how you do now.
Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years, and much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200-plus locations across the state of Tennessee. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Let's see how this progresses. I think it's just another reason that Florida game in the Swamp is so important this season.
Timothy Rogers says, is it better to start Nico and take 8 to 10 wins and get the experience if he's our guy? I mean, for one thing, in no way are you guaranteed 8 wins with
Yeah.
Nico. He's a true freshman. The kid is young, and
there's going to be mistakes. I mean, he's going to see stuff from SEC defenses that he hasn't seen in practice because it's a different defense and a different defensive coordinator, and he definitely didn't see in high school, even against good high school competition. There's just stuff. I mean, you got some really bright defensive minds with Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, and even Mark Stoops at Kentucky has put together some good defensive units at times, even though they've struggled against Tennessee. That's still different looks and athletes that you just don't see, at 17 years old. So there's going to be some growing pains for him, no matter how talented and how smart and how quickly he's picking up this offense.
I mean, you have a guy who is a 5-year guy at this point, a 3-year guy in your program alone, who sat behind a kid who was an incredible leader and a borderline Heisman finalist, and then now has his chance, and he knows this offense front to back, and he has major confidence in himself. And then Nico's a superstar. Make no bones about that. We all know, and every single person that has watched the kid play, never the amount that this kid has been talked about as if he's a freshman is crazy, because he hasn't been talked about that way almost at all. Like, the entire conversation around him is sort of like, oh yeah, he's a dude. He's gonna go out there. And as you said, I mean, the offensive staff says that they would trust him to go in a game if he had to. But you look at who's already there, and to just hop Joe Milton, a 5-year guy who knows this offense front to back, and who has already showed you went out without Jalen Hyatt, and without, this season you're gonna have Dante Thornton. There was no Dante Thornton in that bowl game, and some stuff like that. And he went out and he torched Clemson. You have a known entity versus a currently unknown entity, and a kid who is, would be fresh to the SEC. Like, just think about if you throw him into the Sharks den at Florida. That's a recipe for disaster.
I've seen it before with a much different quarterback. Not comparing the two, but I'll never forget Butch throwing Nathan Peterman out there in the swamp for his first start, and that was about as I felt bad for the kid. I mean, it was rough. I mean, I think he turned the ball over on like 4 straight possessions or something crazy, or a couple of straight snaps. You definitely don't want to do that early in a kid's career. Let him sit back. I think this team has a chance with Milton if the defense kind of progresses like we think it does. If he progresses like we think he will, and kind of hope that he shows. You've got the skill position players at the receivers. You've got the running backs. You've got a defensive line that people are starting to really like. You got 2 linebackers that can really captain that defense in Aaron Beasley and Keenan Peely. The pieces are there for them to take a jump this year. It just all depends on Joe Milton and how he plays, obviously. But I don't think you can just say, okay, we're going to waste this season, try to get 8 to 10 wins. You never know when you might get an opportunity for a special season. They really like their talent. They're confident. Let them have a shot at this thing and see how Joe does.
Exactly. You got to ride with Joe Milton until you have a reason not to. And we'll see. I think they trust in him pretty deeply, and it won't be a mile long leash, but they're gonna give him a chance because of all the time and the effort and the ability that he showed at Tennessee.